I felt like I just drank from a fire hose.
I know it.
Yeah. Yeah. Rex taking notes, man.
Yeah, there was a lot of information there. That was pretty incredible.
I called you beautiful, Dr. Talal. I hope that's a compliment.
It's a
right?
compliment. Thank you.
Good. Okay. Excellent. It was fun. It was just inspiring.
What I got though is you said there was a breach in that Ashley Madison. Is that what that was called?
Yeah.
So like the jobs that were most likely to have infidelity were military and
so there are 3 categories. So you have first responders, nurses, police officers. You have folks who are in the military, and you have folks who tend to be in jobs that are sales and a lot of emphasis on commission and travel.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah.
And so what was the least likely job?
I don't remember what was the least likely job, but what I remember is that really the focus was more along the lines of there are some job where the professional environment, it tends to be just really poor boundaries. Like when you think about sales, if the pressure is always like on making the deal no matter what, and a lot of times they have a lot of whining and dining components. So in order for you to make the sale, you have to schmooze. Pharmaceutical reps, then like even times like when they're chosen, they actually handpick. They have to look a specific way, and they have to be able to meet that line between professional salesmen, but with a little bit of flirting where nobody can, detect that, because it's a way for them to open doors with, physicians who don't want to talk to sales reps.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you said large cities. Was there anything else about the cities?
There were times, so let's say if you are in a geographic location that seems to be isolated, and you are a member of a group where you have to date somebody within the same race and the same religion. So if you have a community where there are not enough people to go around, that's also a community where going to be a higher prevalence rates of infidelity, because everybody wants somebody who look like this or identify as this, and there is a disparity in the ratios. Military is another reason for that too, is that there is a disparity between males and females. So oftentimes, and you hear this a lot from female service women, they say, if I'm in the civilian world, maybe my chances of finding a partner is this much. But when I am deployed somewhere else, because there aren't that many females, all of a sudden, everybody's chasing me. All of a sudden, everybody wants to be my friend because there aren't enough people. So imagine what is that to your ego when you're deployed. All of a sudden, now you're, a 10 or 12, but in the civilian world, you feel that nobody pays attention to you. So I had a lot of times where people, infidelity started after they came back from deployment, because their regular life is not as exciting as being away, because they're your superstar and here you're just like somebody else.
Wow.
So it can happen after they come back. That's fascinating. Yeah. Not while they're away, not while they're
both. Yeah.
Both. I see. Oh goodness. Yeah.
And global events was another one.
Yeah.
That causes.
Yeah.
Well.
So for that one, I give a good example for that one. So do you guys remember the last few years when there was high numbers of riots and the thing about the police and Black Lives Matter?
Yes.
So I had so many police officers during that time. A lot of clients were police officers where they were having infidelity because a lot of stress, and everybody hate police officers. And a lot of times their civilian partners did not agree with them, right? They said, I don't like you now because you're a cop, you're a cab, and all these things.
Oh, correct.
They find somebody else who is more aligned with their political view, and they learn those boundaries.
Wow.
It was like the perfect setup, isn't it? Just
and as a police officer, you're not dealing with the best that society has to offer on a pretty continuous basis.
That's another good point, because that has to do with the black and white thinking and the rigidity, right? So a lot of times that can be stifling for our relationship too. You have somebody who they go back home and they treat their kids and their partner the same way they treat perps, right? Because everybody lies, they're really dishonest. So a lot of times they come home and they bring their work with them.
Oof. Wow. Yeah. Okay. You'd mentioned that when you got started, the catalyst for you was when you were looking at um uh basically treatments for infidelity, and you found that there really wasn't any program or rubric for that. Um, that you noticed that there were common denominators within infidelity. And I was wondering what some of those were.
Sure. So the first one is the importance of the narrative of the affair. Because when you talk to regular clinicians, they're split. You have some people who says, who cares about the story? Does the story matter? Can we just focus on how we rebuild this? And you have clinicians who said, well, no, every part of the story matter, every little detail. I feel like it's somewhere in the middle, because I don't think you can choose how to proceed if you don't know the story. But I also feel like there is such a thing as oversharing, and you can further traumatize the betrayed if they look at, images, details.
Such a fine line. It's such a fine line, right?
And to me, where I stand on it is that the story is important, but the type of question, the level of disclosure that we need, it should be really to help us understand the type of infidelity that took place and the reason why it happened. So the way I do this, I give the unfaithful the opportunity to say, you told me the story. I'm going to ask you some questions as the clinician to help me just kind of start seeing the sequence of events. And I'll tell the betrayed, you can ask any question that you want to ask, right? There are no limits. But before we answer that question, you have to make a case. How is the answer to this question is going to help you better understand the what and the why. If you're able to make a case for it, then it's a good question to ask. If you're not able to make a good case for it, then it's not a good question. Put this into practice. If we are dealing with a sex affair, right? And the infidelity happened because the unfaithful partner struggled with sex addiction, and the betrayed want to know, well, what kind of sexual activity was going on between the affair partner and the unfaithful. Is that a good question to ask, or is that a bad question to ask?
I would say it's a bad question to ask.
Okay, well, why is that?
Because it's just going to get too far into the weeds and the details, and that's going to trigger a lot of emotions and just stir up a lot of sediment that probably is going to cloud up the water and lose focus on why this happened.
Perfect. That's part of it. But also the other part of it is that, well, the infidelity wasn't happening because of compatibility, because if it was incompatibility, I think it's a fair question to know. I want to know, how is this person different than I am? What are they able to do that I can't? But in this situation, it has nothing to do with that. If it's sex addiction, it could be just put any other person there. That would have happened anyway. Right. So that's what I'm saying is, like, there is no right or wrong answer of, but what's the level of detail is going to be based on the unique circumstances of each client, and just really the lowest of level of detail, as long as we get the what and the why, because that's really the important part of the story to help us understand, should we stay or should we?
Yeah.
I have a question, Rex. I've got a question for you. What about, how does one approach, because to accuse someone, are there like these little signs? And if there is a sign, you're outraged or something, you're seeing things are just off. Are there better approaches or questions rather than accusatory, you're cheating, aren't you? That type of does that make sense? How do you ask? How do you bring this up?
So I'll try to address that question. Let's say that people are not dealing with infidelity and they just want to bring up something with their partner that's uncomfortable first, right? I really think being direct is the best way, but being direct, it doesn't mean that I give accusation. So I even use it with a garden variety example. So let's say you're not happy with your partner because they should be doing X, Y, and Z, and they're not doing it. A common mistake people do, they go to their partner to say, hey, you're not doing this, and you're not doing this because you don't love me or you don't respect me. So not only I'm telling you the problem that I have with you, I'm giving you my own assumption about this thing that's making me unhappy. Now, we're going to be spending the next hour fighting about your explanation of why this is happening, which is wrong, when in reality, we ignored the actual observation. Do we agree or not agree that this is a problem? So the best way to bring up something to your partner, to say, hey, I observed this. Can you please tell me, first of all, can we agree that this is outlandish? Can we agree that this is not the norm? Yes, we agree this is not the norm. Can you please tell me why this is happening? I'm just going to sit there and listen to your explanation, right? You either have a good explanation or you have a BS explanation. If you have BS explanation, we can have that conversation, right? But that is the shortest way, because a lot of times there's a reason why your partner is not meeting your expectation. Because really, that's all I care about. If I'm going to give you attention, I just want this problem to go away, right? So it wouldn't make any sense for me to argue with you about why I think it happened, because it's irrelevant. If I'm wrong, guess what? I'll find out, because if you make promises that you're going to change this and rinse and repeat, then guess what? You're not really working with those issues.
My last question would be, it has to be between the physical and the emotional. And I know that you said that identifying emotional infidelity is much more difficult, but from what I've read or have seen, I think some women, and I could be wrong on this, but would say that it's easier to deal with a physical infidelity than it is an emotional infidelity. Is that true?
Perfect. So how much time do I have to answer that one?
Yeah, that's right.
I'll try to be brief. A lot of people ask me, like, is there, men and women differences about the causes of infidelity? And I think, part of this has to do with the old paradigm in, men from Mars, women from Venus. I think, that has some limited face value validity. Yes, we are different, but in the causes of infidelity, we're learning that the idea of gender is not as rigid as we thought it was. The idea of your person's sexuality is not as rigid. So there is a lot of fluidity. I focus on the reason that why this happened versus is that happened because you're a male or a female. But there is an aspect of this that keeps coming up, which is research shows that men and women respond differently to the type of affairs that being exposed. So oftentimes they say women tend to be upset about emotional affairs and men need to be upset about sexual affairs. What I like is what they call the double shot hypothesis. This was popular back in the 90s. So the way it goes is something like this. Women are upset about the discovery of emotional affair because from their perspective, my man would not develop an emotional attachment to somebody unless they had sex with them. So the discovery of an emotional affair, that means both lines were crossed. If you look at it from the male perspective, then male would be more upset about the discovery of sexual affair because from his perspective, my woman would not have sex with somebody unless she was in love with him too. So those specific lines, it's an indication that both lines were crossed, and that's why you have those differences. That's why I believe you see those differences if there is actual legitimacy to them.
Oh, interesting. Fascinating. I've really liked this, and takeaway for me is just how multifaceted it is, and the links between careers and location and events happening. It's just been fascinating. I really thank you for sharing all this and taking the time with us today, Dr. Talal.
Oh, thank you for asking me all these amazing questions.
Thanks for joining us today. Hey, do us a favor and take a second to subscribe to our podcast and the Utah Marriage Commission YouTube channel at Utah Marriage Commission, where you can watch this and every episode of the show. Be sure to smash the like button, leave a comment, and share this episode with a friend. You can also follow and interact with us on Instagram at Stronger Marriage Life and Facebook at Stronger Marriage. So be sure to share with us which topics you loved or which guests we should have on the show next. If you want even more resources to improve your marriage or relationship connection, visit strongermarriage.org, where you'll find free workshops, e-courses, in-depth webinars, relationship surveys, and more. Each episode of Stronger Marriage Connection is hosted and sponsored by the Utah Marriage Commission at Utah State University. And finally, a big thanks to our producer, Rex Polanis, and the team at Utah State University, and you, our audience. You make this show possible. The opinions, findings, conclusions, and recommendations expressed in this podcast do not necessarily reflect the views of the Utah Marriage Commission.